Now, from the MITM Business Consultants, comes Man in the Middle, your one-stop shop for financial tips and tricks that big banks and corporate America won't teach you and don't want you to know. Discussing the latest and greatest products, services, skills, and habits to grow and support the financial needs of your business and you. Giving you the knowledge to help make your own important choices for your business and you. Disclaimer: Man in the Middle expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. Now, here is your Man in the Middle, with 10 years of experience in the financial and banking industry, Art Abrahamian.
What is going on, everybody? Episode 12, Man in the Middle. Good to have everybody watching. And in case you're wondering what this pink unicorn is, my daughter requested that it be on today's podcast. So, Sophia, there you go. She wouldn't let me leave the house. She said, Papa, take this for your podcast. Today's episode is about our lovely sponsor and partner, USCCA. We are fortunate enough to be partnered with them. As we discussed in the last video, we would go over what the company does and all the things it provides to the community. And, you know, what better way than having one of their representatives out. So we have Eric LaHoy here from Delta Defense USCCA, and we're happy to have him and grateful that he made time to come talk to us. And he's going to go ahead and talk to us about all the benefits of the company. We're going to ask him a bunch of questions because we ourselves have been getting a bunch of questions from our own viewers like, hey, what's that company about? I said, you know what? Hold that thought. We're going to answer all those questions. So, Eric, thank you for coming by. We really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Before we even get it started with a conversation, we're going to go ahead and play our official sponsor's intro. And if you want to know more about the USCCA, there's a link in the description. Feel free to click that. And again, we're going to learn all about it today. So give us just 1 second here.
It's in our nature to protect the ones we love, to stand up to any danger, to be strong and courageous, to always be prepared, to keep our family safe, to be the first line of defense. We are born to protect.
Got those chills again, Peyton. Every time. So, Eric, we're going to hand it off to you. You know, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you even came to be with USCCA.
No, that's a great question. So, yeah, I've lived this lifestyle a long time. I've been a firearm owner since 2005. And, you know, back then thinking, hey, I had a plan to defend my family, my home. Really understanding that today, if I knew now what I knew then, it would have got me in a lot of hot water, right? Having that plan was the wrong plan. So for me, it was really important for me to really understand, hey, what is legal for me to do, especially in California where laws change constantly. What can we do to protect our home front? What can we do to protect ourselves, our family? We need to understand that, especially if we're living this lifestyle. And this self-defense lifestyle is a lifestyle. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to take a firearms class and I know I'm an expert at that. We have to continue our education, per se, as well as continue to train. So that's what I love about this community, because it's not just about, hey, I'm an expert because I took one class, right? We have to continue to do that because it is a perishable skill. Everyone understands. If you've shot a firearm before, you understand that this is a perishable skill. So if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And it's simple as that. So.
Absolutely. You know, and I know you know this, but I'm a range safety officer, for those of you who don't know, up in the high desert of Morongo Valley for the Desert Gun Club, the High Desert Gun Club. And it is a perishable skill. You know, when you're not out there practicing all the time, you have to be. And I think part of being a responsible firearm owner and a responsible person who's trying to protect their family in general is not just to set a plan and then leave it there for 10 years and never go back and look at it and make sure everything's, this is a common issue with like people who have a cellar that they use or a drawer that they use in case an earthquake happens. And it's like, yeah, but you bought that stuff 3 years ago. It's all expired already. You got to go back in there and look and see is it expired or not. So.
And know how to use it.
Right.
As well.
Right.
So.
And when did you join with Delta Defense and USCCA?
So just a little over a year ago now is when I got hired on Delta Defense. And as you know, which is a service provider for the United States Concealed Carry Association. So I've been with the company for a year and 2 months now.
Wow,
yeah,
that's great.
Fairly new.
And I'm sure you're saying many more to come.
Yes, indeed.
Even though this year and a half, because I love your guys' company. And when we went out to lunch, can I share that thing that you told me about the tipping?
Yeah.
So I know I told you, but for our viewers, the CEO of the company mandates that they tip 30% gratuity on every meal that they buy with the company card. To put that into retrospect, with however many service people that they have, how many sales people, however many, their entire team in general that's allowed to use their company card, for that to be 30% across the board of the company, that is just, I was shocked. And I was like, one question everybody asks me, and I got to ask you.
What's that?
What if the service is bad? Because people like, what if the server is just so bad?
That's a great question. I've never run into that situation before.
Because
So,
everybody has asked me when I say what
That's
a
a
great
great
company Delta Defense and USCCA is. And I'm like, dude, we went out to lunch and he was telling me about the gratuity thing. And then everybody's follow up is like, but what if the service was really bad?
Well, maybe you get 20% instead of 30.
Ah, shucks.
But it just goes to show that and USCCA is a company. When me and my wife had our daughter, one of the reps, when I had called in, had heard my daughter crying in the background, and he's like, "Oh, it sounds like a newborn." I said, "Yes, it is." And they sent me a handwritten card congratulating me on having my daughter, and it was that kind of experience doesn't happen in today's corporations of America. The personal touch, it's gone most places. You're just a number, you're just a debit card, you're just an account number, you're just a member ID. But to have a personal touch with any company, it just goes so far. So what is your role with the company?
So I'm an account executive. So I work with official partners like yourself, and I love what I do because I stand in front of hundreds and hundreds of people on a weekly basis. And whether it's a basic firearms class, the CCW classes that are a little bit further downstream in this lifestyle, whatever the case may be, I get to inform the general public as far as what the right thing to do is, right? Be prepared, because really understand what this lifestyle offers and what you should do as far as knowing the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do. Because even in your own home, if you had to defend yourself and your family, you're thinking it's in your own house. Right, and you just defended yourself and your family, you could still be doing everything wrong. So this is why I love what I do, because I get to stand in front of people and say, hey, understand what the lifestyle entails. Be responsible, because responsible gun ownership is exactly that, because there's a group of people out there that would be willing to legislate exactly what their version of responsible, or as far as what their version of responsible means, and impose that on us. And we hate that, right? So that's, I think, if you're going to live this lifestyle, if you're a firearm owner, understand what this lifestyle really entails.
Yeah. Honestly, it seems like it could even go beyond owning a firearm.
Yes.
Because, there's less lethal firearms out there, like the Byrna and the Umarex, and these are all products that, like, my wife, for instance, that's one of the things that I wanted her to carry around before she got her concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
Because it's about just understanding that, like, you need something to protect yourself, because I can't be there 24/7.
Yeah.
But you can't not live your life either by being afraid everywhere you go. So, I feel like the services really rendered go beyond just a firearm ownership. Even if you want to protect yourself with a bat or a baseball or a golf club, and you're at home and your wife's alone with the child, you want to feel comfortable knowing that if something were to go awry, she's been trained, this person understands what they're supposed to do, and then, having the support from Delta Defense and USCCA to come in handy there too.
Indeed, yeah. So we work with the Martial Arts Academy, because their hands and feet are basically lethal weapons. So whether it's any lawful act of self-defense is what the USCCA will work with you on.
Yeah, of course.
Right, so, and it has to be a federally legal firearm, or some type of a federally legal tool of defense.
Right.
Right. So you can't use nunchucks.
No brass knuckles.
No brass
no
knuckles,
throwing
right.
darts. And gotcha.
Like to blow
You
darts.
can't be a ninja. Got it.
Right.
You know, what do you normally see? Like, what's one of the biggest misconceptions you see about this company when you go on your day-to-day?
So, great question. So, there's a lot of misconceptions that you see on YouTube or on the internet, and my advice is really understand that. Don't just take someone's word for it and take it as your gospel, right? Because it could be wrong, and there's a good chance it will be wrong. So, do your own research. There's so much misconceptions out there about the USCCA as far as what they cover and don't cover. It's a lawful act of self-defense. What the USCCA doesn't want is criminal acts, right? A criminal act is obviously, in most cases, against the law. So
Right,
it's
yeah, of
obviously a
course.
criminal act. So those are the things that you don't want to do. And then and calling it self-defense, we live in a world of cameras. CSI today, crime scene investigators are very, very good in what they do. Science is caught up to the point where it's really hard to fraud the investigation.
Yeah, of course. It's
Right,
not the
so-
60s and 50s
Right.
and 40s. There's a camera looking everywhere. And
Exactly.
are you about to go? Payson has to head out today. He's got a couple showings. As you know, all of our employees are not just expert in one field, but they're either realtors, brokers, insurance agents. And we were a little bit late to get this one started. So Payson's going to go to his thing. We might see him in a little bit if he comes back, but if not, he was here for episode 12.
real quickly.
So
Well, I appreciate it. I'm sorry. It was,
Yeah, no,
it was
it's all
such a
good.
short meet, but we'll have to meet again soon.
Indeed.
well, we'll
All
see
right.
you. If you come back, you come back. If
All right.
not,
I'll-
you can watch this over again and see what you missed.
Sounds good.
So let me put this down. Perfect. Eric, one of the questions, and misconceptions more so than anything else is really just everybody thinks this is just an insurance company. And that's not true.
No, it's not true. So the USCCA is actually not it's not an insurance company. So the USCCA is a membership program. It's a membership company. It's in the company that actually insures that you become an additional insured as a member of the USCCA.
Okay.
So the actual company that issues the policy is the Universal Fire and Casualty Insurance Company, UFCIC. And they're the ones that actually issue the policy to the USCCA. As you become a member of the USCCA, you become an additional insured, which there's a positives there, right? So that way you're not issuing the deductible if there's a deductible involved. USCCA does that. So as long as you paid your annual fee or you're on top of your monthly fees, that's all you're paying out. There's no deductible program here. It's not a reimbursement type program. So if you're ever involved in that lawful self-defense incident, then there's no money out of pocket or for your benefits to get activated.
Wow. And could you tell us about some of those benefits? What are some of the benefits of being a USCCA member?
Yeah, so of course. So as I stated earlier, as a member, you become an additional insured in the self-defense liability insurance policy that's issued to the USCCA. That means if you're ever involved in that lawful self-defense incident, that covered self-defense incident, now you have a no-limit defense expense in both criminal and civil court. Additionally, there's up to $2 million in damages if that gavel comes down against you in civil court. Also, there's up to $100,000 in bail expense, which, as you know, covers you, is good for $1 million bond. Additionally, there's up to $20,000 in incidental expenses, which covers you for a variety of different things like hazmat coming into your home. If the incident happens in your home, there's DNA in your house. Hazmat comes in the house and cleans up any DNA. Also covers a variety of different things like accommodations. If obviously you can't sleep in your house that night because it's a crime scene, so you may need a hotel room.
Yeah.
And for several days or a week or possibly whenever the investigation process is over, you may need hotel fees and hotel accommodations. That's what it covers. Also covers the replacement of it. Let's say you use your firearm, and your firearm is evidence. Typically, you don't get that back, or the chances of you getting that back is not very great. So at least it covers the replacement of your firearm.
Wow. Yeah, most people don't even think about that.
Yeah.
And then what about like if somebody has an incident and it's pending, it's going on. In today's world, as we discussed, cameras are everywhere. You end up on the news, the employer getting a lot of backlash without the full story even coming out. This person gets laid off. What happens then?
So there's additional up to $750 a day in lost income. So they do cover you for that as well in case you're incarcerated and you can't go to work. There's up to I say up to $750 a day in income, because I don't make $750 a day, right? So, but it does. They do have.
Yeah, you got to prove it, obviously.
Obviously,
Right.
So, but that's pretty neat that at least you're not out
Oh,
of
it's great.
income.
What do you think is the most important asset about the membership? What do you think, like in your own opinion, out of the entire plethora of things that, because it's great to have all those benefits,
Yes.
and you can't find a company that offers something like that. There's just not. I've never come across a company that offers the plethora of benefits that USCCA offers. But again, like most incidents, it doesn't happen all the time. It may never even happen, and that's okay too. It's like car insurance. And I know this isn't an insurance-based company, but what I mean by we don't get car insurance because we know we're going to get into an accident. We get car insurance because one day it might happen. And when it does happen, we want to make sure that if there's injuries or anything along those lines, that we're covered and protected and all of those things. With the USCCA offering the amount of resources that they do, what would you say that like somebody who's like, well, I want to sign up, but I don't feel like this would ever happen to me. What other benefits would they get?
Oh, that's a great question. So additionally, I tied back to being informed, education, because top reason why most hesitate, and when I say most CCW permit holders hesitate to draw their firearm, is because of liability. They're afraid of that liability. Although I always tie it back to the education portion and the training, because I think that is the most important aspect of this whole lifestyle, right? Stay informed. Know when you can use that firearm. When is it legal for you to use lethal force? Those are the things that I like to talk about, because I get it. It's your own home. Especially here in California, we have that duty to retreat. It's in your own house. Even in your own house, you have that duty to retreat, meaning...
That's free.
Yeah, it's
What?
crazy. Yeah, right.
What do you mean? There's no stand your ground?
Well, the stand your ground's iffy, right? So stand your ground is if you did your due diligence, your duty to retreat, you've taken your whole family, you're in your master bedroom, and your back is against the wall. That's your stand your ground threshold.
Wow.
Right? You can't go anywhere else. So that's when your stand your ground comes into play.
I was having a good day.
It's really interesting, yeah.
And now I'm just frustrated.
It's really frustrating here, because we need to understand what our rights are, because criminals are very aware of their rights and they practice it to the T. So should law-abiding citizens. We need to be absolutely aware of our rights.
Yeah.
Because even if it's in our own home, we think we defended our home. Again, it can get you in, it can land you in hot water.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the high rate in crime, and I have friends and family who are current and active law enforcement, and they've described the system of today of like fishing.
Mm-hmm.
You got your fish, you have to kiss it, and then you have to throw it back in the water, because accountability just isn't there. I was recently at the Acrisure Arena that just opened up here on Wednesday. I went to go see Dave Chappelle live, and Chris Rock was there. And Dave Chappelle had a portion of the comedy hour where he talked about when he was attacked on stage at the Rose Bowl in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
And he got really upset, and he said, I don't like to come to California because I don't like your governor, I don't like your DA. He goes, because when I got attacked on stage, the person had what looked like a gun, but it was actually a knife that had a trigger, and when you pulled the trigger, the knife would come up, and he reached for it, and they caught him with that weapon, and after assaulting him and battering him and attacking him and all this, they let him out on a misdemeanor charge with a $300 bail.
Yeah.
And
Unbelievable.
And Dave Chappelle, one of his jokes was like, the next Miley Cyrus concert, I'm tackling her. He goes, I'm going to tackle a bunch of people because if it's $300, I can do this all day. And, you know, I was laughing. Everybody was laughing, but it was sad. It was sad that was to the extent of attacking somebody.
Yeah.
So it seems like the law-abiding citizen has to be even more cautious than the criminal because
Yes.
they're after the people, you know, laws don't affect criminals.
Right. They don't follow
Exactly.
laws, right? Obviously.
Laws
so.
don't affect criminals because they wouldn't be criminals otherwise.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is one of those things where it's like, I have had this membership for a long time. And we've talked about the extent. Back when it was in its grassroots, I was a backer of this company because it just made sense.
Yes.
I had no stake in the company. I wasn't an official partner. I just became an official partner. But for 6 years, didn't make sense not to have it.
Right. Yes. I've had the same membership for a long time now, 5 years, and I've only been with the company for over a year. So I told my boss when I first got hired on, I've been selling this program with friends and family for a long time.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because,
I've been selling your guys' product for years.
yes, it should be ubiquitous in every household.
Right.
Because everyone, at one point, God forbid, no one breaks in. You may not have to defend yourself, but at least if you do, if someone does break in and you have to stand your ground, at least you have the resources
Right.
and the
Because
training. Yeah.
It may not even be a CCW thing.
Right.
If you don't have your concealed carry permit, that doesn't matter.
Right.
You're still at home where you're allowed to have your firearm, but if something happens and you don't retreat, and then, you know, the defense attorney's not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, yeah, he was a criminal with a rap sheet from A to Z. They're going to say, well, he didn't retreat. And then now you could potentially be held up and lose your right to own a firearm and have all these pending charges against you when you didn't even do anything.
Right.
You're the victim.
You're the victim, exactly. And now you've got to fork out for resources. And a great attorney in this state it averages anywhere between $600 and $850 an hour.
I'm looking at you guys at home right now through this camera, and he's right, because half of those guys are our clients. They're not cheap. I know attorneys that will charge per text message, $50 per text message.
Wow.
When I used to work at the bank, people would come in with their attorneys and go, I need you to do this as fast as possible because he charges by the minute. And he goes, it's $500 an hour. We did it in 30. He looks at the attorney and goes, so I only owe you $250, right? He goes, no, you still owe me $500. I charge by the hour. And he goes, you know what, Art? Screw that. Take another 30 minutes. We're going to sit here and talk about this because if I'm going to pay full price, I'm getting a full hour.
That's right. 59 mintes.
You're going to be 59. And you
great.
can leave after that. But it's just, you know, it's sad that this type of service has to exist.
Yes.
It's a great service. But what I mean by that, it's sad that it had to be done because people like you and I who are pillars in our community, we want to help the community. We donate time, charity work. We follow the laws. We do everything we're supposed to do. And an event that we can't control, where we're not even the aggressor,
Right.
and all we're trying to do is just protect ourselves, our friends, our loved ones, our family, and then all of a sudden now our lives get turned upside down because a court of public opinion is, in today's day and age, whether you're guilty or not guilty, the court of public opinion is disgusting to me.
Agreed.
You're a 10-second clip out of 40-minute video, and you're the biggest POS on the planet.
Yes,
And you're not allowed
exactly.
to have bank accounts. You're not allowed to have social media. You're not allowed. And it's like, what did you do?
Yeah.
What if you didn't do anything? It's just, it's insane, you know, and to see, you know, the company step up and meet the need of the people. It's awesome. I, as a member, love the benefits. I get my catalog every month, the monthly catalog. You guys have great resources, and maybe
mean the
you
magazine?
Yeah,
The
the
magazine.
magazine.
Yeah, yep.
The
Great
magazine is
magazine.
really nice, and I always go through it, and I get to see all these like new products coming to market, and all the stories on there from the CEO and people who have had to use the insurance.
Real life people.
Real life
yes.
people. With that being said, what's the are you familiar with anybody who's had to use the insurance?
So I am, yes. I'm actually following 6 incidents. The 6 members. This is 6 members in LA County alone in the last 45 days.
Wow.
Yeah, so really
Without specifics,
crazy.
can you give us a little bit about what it was without saying names and places and just
Sure.
kind of general? Because we'd love to hear like what's going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one very unique case is a couple that this happened a couple of months ago. They're about to get married, and the groom, for whatever reason, invited his ex-wife to the wedding.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry if you know who that is. You know who you are. I apologize, but you don't do that. So that's asking for it almost, right? So obviously, ex-wife and new wife didn't get along. Long story short, she sent a couple gangbangers to his house. They attacked his mom. In his own property, his own house, he had to run and grab a firearm because they were going to attack his mom, and said, "Hey, if you don't get off my property, I'm going to use this." And they left. They didn't want any part of it, but they called LAPD and said, "Hey, this guy was pointing a gun at me."
Wow.
So they arrested them both a couple of days before their wedding. So they spent 2 days in jail. If you sign up, if you're a member, have the USCCA's phone number with someone else. Put it in their favorites. If it's an iPhone, whatever the case may be, speed dial, right? So what I grew up with, we used to call that speed dial. But anyways, have it with someone else. So that way, that someone else can call for you if you're incarcerated, because they do take away your phone. They take away your wallet. So you may not have that number. And in this case, they were 2 new members. Both of them, they didn't have it on them. So no one knew what they were talking about. And so they ended up paying for their own bail to get out 2 days later. The neat thing was that next Monday morning, they called the USCCA. As soon as they got out that midnight, called the USCCA. Here's what happened. They gave us the description. And on Monday, they received a check overnight, FedEx overnight, a check for their bail amount. So they were reimbursed. Typically, that's not how it happens. But because
given the circumstance,
given
of course.
the
No, I get
circumstance,
that.
they had to pay out of pocket, and then the USCCA reimbursed them for that amount.
Wow.
But
that's insane.
yeah, it's still a pending case. The LAPD did find out that it was wrong, that they were in the wrong in that sense, and now there's a civil case pending. So beyond that,
of course.
I don't know what else is going on.
No, for
but
sure. And I
beyond
don't
that, it's
expect you
pretty
to
neat,
even go into too much detail. I understand. Now, we want to respect everybody's privacy as well. That's just wild.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to look at the camera and I say this. Think about this, guys. The gangbanger shows up to your house. You point your gun because they're about to attack your mother. And then they call the cops on you and say they're the victims.
No
and
shots
you spent
fired.
2 days in jail.
Right. It's
What
crazy.
is that?
No shots fired. That's what's crazy about it, right?
Wow. And that's the thing, right? People think it's only criminal. There's two sides of our court systems.
Yes.
There's civil and criminal. And usually civil is where things get choppy with everything. That's the guy who breaks into your house, breaks his foot while he's at your house. He's maybe liable criminally, but you're liable civilly because he got hurt in your house.
Exactly. We hear stories about that all the time. So, which is wild, but this is the world, this is society we live in today.
Yeah.
So,
and we have to integrate with it, even though we don't agree with it, even as ridiculous as what we just said sounded.
yes.
That's what it is.
Every time I look at the news, I shake my head. Right? There's a story in Antioch, California, where a robber walked into a gas station. He robbed a place. He was running outside. Well, the clerk at the gas station starts shooting at him, missed every shot. So the robber turns around and shoots the clerk and kills him dead. So to me, at that point, the clerk did everything wrong. And that's my point, is he did everything wrong. He shouldn't have gone outside. He shouldn't have chased this guy shooting at him. Whether he was a lawful firearm owner or a CCW, it didn't say. However, now you're in offensive mode. You're not in defensive mode.
Right.
He lost his life, unfortunately. Here's the crazy thing: the robber there was no charges pressed on the thief because it was self-defense.
Yeah.
So
Even though he was initially the aggressor.
exactly. So knowing the right thing to do as a law-abiding citizen is a must. I can't emphasize on that enough. So,
Yeah, and that's the thing, is average people, we don't know what the right thing is to do because we don't live this life and breathe it every second of the way. Even myself, rooted into the firearm community as I am, as much as I love it, with all the new laws and things, and that's what I love the membership for. because there's the resource center where I can watch the videos. There's the booklets that I can the PDFs and books that I can look into, and it's just, tell us a little bit about the resource center, because you're going to know a lot more in detail than I would.
So it's called the Protector Academy, and you can go on there. You can access it through online or an app on your iPhone, or whether you have an Android. And you guys can go in there and put together like home defense plans, right? Put together a home defense plan, situational awareness. If you have kids, college students, I'm following that case up in Idaho right now very closely. What happened to those 4 college students was absolutely disgusting. But those are the things I want people to talk about. Talk it up. Situational awareness is so imperative in today's society, because you don't know where a threat can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And if we're not situationally aware, we used to call that street smart when we were kids. Remember that?
Right.
And it went away with the invention of cell phones, because everyone's buried in their cell phones and headphones and whatnot. So talk about situational awareness again. Countering a mass shooter. I mean, there's over 600 mass shootings in 2022 alone. I don't know if most people don't know that, and it's crazy that there's over 600 mass shootings. So I always ask, is that mandatory or optional learning now? For me, that's mandatory.
Yeah, I have friends. My daughter's only 3, so she's not quite there for schooling, like in kindergarten and 1 through whatever. But my friends who have like 7-year-olds who are going to the 1st grade, and I was over at his house and we were having a cigar and we're talking, and I said, "Hey, how you doing, bud?" "I'm good." I said, "What'd you do today?" He goes, "Oh, we had a shooting drill, a school shooter drill."
Active shooter drill, yeah.
What is
Crazy.
this 7-year-old having to it's just sad. Yeah. And most people think it's the firearm.
Right.
They immediately allude to the firearm issue, and I'm like, I don't even fight with people on that, because it's just one of those things where it's like, it's a tool. It shouldn't be used for those purposes, and unfortunately, nobody in the firearm community condones people doing that. It's interesting because I was reading something where New York's standing mayor at the time was saying, "Oh, well, I don't make these laws. It doesn't have to make sense." Because they pulled up a statistics on the CCW rates, and they said that the CCW holder was a higher and law-abiding citizen than most police officers were.
Wow.
With how much they had to do, and the lack of criminal records, lack of speeding tickets. Like, they are the ideal image of a upright standing citizen. And when they asked the mayor, "So why are you putting all these laws to affect them with the statistics? Do you even know the statistics?" She said, "I don't care about the statistics."
Wow.
It doesn't mean I care about the safety of the community. But it's like, but the statistics tell you that they're the safest part of the community.
Right. Yeah. They're law-abiding.
They're law-abiding citizens.
Exactly.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I wish we could. It makes no sense to us. We could sit here all day and talk about how it makes no sense and how frustrating and aggravating. And I hear conversations all the time, and I'm around people who we get into it and talk a little bit, and but we talk calmly. That's another thing. People should be able to voice their opinions, whether they're different, in a calm manner. Nobody has to rage at each other.
Right.
People are just so uptight and high-strung lately. It's
You can still disagree and still be friends.
Exactly. You could totally be friends and disagree. That doesn't mean we don't have to be mirror images of each other.
Exactly.
But, it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, the world's changed. The country's changed. The mentality's changed. And things like this allow people like us to keep up with the changes.
Yes. I've always said the Second Amendment, I'm a huge fan, I'm a big supporter, I'm an advocate for the Second Amendment. It's a bipartisan bill, right? It wasn't just one-sided that actually drew up the Second Amendment. So I say, if you're a gun owner, if you're a CCW permit holder, be an ambassador for this, because we become a shall-issue country, not just a shall-issue state. The Supreme Court pretty much said, hey, wow, your right to self-defense extends beyond your front door. Who knew, right? So be an advocate for this. Talk it up. If you don't have your CCW permit, sign up, get yours. If you know someone who has it or who can pass a background check as a legal firearm, have them sign up for their CCW permit. Here's my theory. Good people, law-abiding citizens with guns outnumber criminals out there with guns. that just drives down the crime rate.
Yeah, it makes people think twice.
Right.
Even if they don't shoot,
No.
it's just, it makes you think twice.
Yes. But I always tie it back to staying informed, be informed because gun laws change, permit laws change, and understand that you need continually to train because every round that leaves that firearm could potentially be a liability, could be a risk. There's a lawsuit we always said in this lifestyle, there's a lawsuit with every bullet that leaves your firearm. So train. I can't emphasize on that.
10 lawsuits for those of you who are keeping count.
That's
'cause
right.
The California magazine limits 10, so think about that. That's
Yeah,
10
10
lawsuits in a magazine.
In each magazine.
So, I think to your point, everybody who is allowed to have it should have it, but everybody who goes for it should also have the USCCA
Indeed.
membership.
Indeed.
Because protecting your family, and I said this on the last podcast, which is protecting your finances is just as important as protecting your livelihood. Protecting your livelihood is more important than protecting your finances, if anything.
Yes.
There are a lot of people listening who work long hours. There are a lot of people here who have multiple jobs. There's a lot of people who wish they could spend more time with their family, whether they're clients of ours, friends of ours, family members of ours. And, it's like what I was saying about with my situation at home where, my wife doesn't feel comfortable going most places without me there because she's scared. What would happen? What if something goes wrong? What does she do?
Sure.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, shouldn't have to feel that way, but that's just what it is.
Right.
And if I'm out of town because I have to do business, my biggest concern is always, how are my girls?
Yeah.
That's what I do every day. I call, check the cameras, inside, outside, and anytime I see motion on my phone, I freak out because I know I'm 2 hours away. If something were to happen, I can't get to that in time. So, teaching my wife how to use a firearm, how to protect our daughter, how to protect herself. And she's a what do they call it? Spousal member. She
Signs up for half off.
Yeah.
Yep.
She signed up. I got her signed up. It was half off even back in day one. And she's been a member for as long as I've been a member. And I tell her all the time,
Love it.
don't call me first.
Yeah.
The back of the card, the phone
Yes.
number that we put in your phone, you're going to call them first. Then you're going to call me. And then you're going to call the card, then the police, then, I forgot how it goes. It goes 911, then the USCCA.
USCCA, yep.
Yeah, so you call 911 first, then you call the USCCA. And I'm like, when they get there, do not talk.
Just invoke your right to an attorney.
Yep.
Invoke your right to an
That's
attorney,
it.
and that's it. They'll Miranda you. It doesn't necessarily mean you're arrested. They're just reading you your rights.
Right.
And they'll take you, and they'll detain you. It's not necessarily arrested at that moment in time. They'll just possibly detain you until the investigative process is over or until your attorney gets there and bails you out.
Right.
Whatever the case may be. But those are the things that could potentially happen. Yes.
So I told her, you need to know these steps. Actually, in where I keep my safe and the firearms, it's actually on the door panel of the safe, and it's right next to the safe on the wall.
Love it.
The steps. I laminate it and I put it, and I'm like, if pull in case fired, right?
Yeah.
If this ever happens, follow these steps. Don't call me and freak out. Call 911, call the USCCA, then call me, and then call my parents to come get the baby, because you're probably going to go,
Yeah.
downtown for a little bit and tell the attorneys and until everybody gets situated.
Yeah, indeed. That's great, because statistics say that is the reason why most will hesitate to use your firearms, based on liability, and second is training. So at least if you have both of those, that's the last thing I want people to hesitate on, is the lack of knowledge, or the being not informed, and the lack of training, right? Because at the end of the day, I want you to be able to take your own boots off.
Yeah.
I don't want someone else taking your boots off for you.
Right.
Right. So I want you to make it home and back home to your families. So those are the things that's important to me, and that's why I love what I do, because I stand in front of hundreds of people every single week talking about this. And people constantly, I get the, oh my gosh, yes, it's California, guys, we're a little crazy out here. So our laws are against us. I get that. But at the same time, we have to live with it, right? But stay law-abiding is
of
basically
course.
what it is.
Of course.
When it comes down to that. So know your rights, know what you can and can't do, and stay with it and stick with that.
Yeah,
So,
well, this was awesome. I know you have to be in Riverside, right?
I
You're in
do.
San Bernardino.
Yep.
So I won't take up much more of your time, but we're grateful for having you stop by. And if any of you listening are interested in the USCCA, click that link down below. It'll be in the comment or in the descriptions, and sign up, and it'll give you a free packet of information. And
Indeed.
you go from there. But Eric, thank you so much for coming by and educating. Even I've been with this company for 6 years, and even myself, you educated me on a lot. And that story, I'm going to share that story of just like how important this product is, because ex-wife comes to wedding, gangbanger comes to my door, trying to attack my family, gun pointed at them. Then they call the cops and go, I'm the victim.
Yeah.
That's insane. Oh my God. All right. I'm going to save that for off camera. And I'll let the swear words fly after that one. But thank you to everybody listening. If you want to become a member, MITM.services, where you can pick the next podcast. Again, we want to thank USCCA and Eric LaHoy for coming out today. We really appreciate your time. And before we go, we're going to play out our outro and the USCCA outro. So everybody, thank you for your time. Eric, thank you again.
Thank you, Art, for having me.
Of course.
It's in our nature to protect the ones we love, to stand up to any danger, to be strong and courageous, to always be prepared, to keep our family safe, to be the first line of defense. We are born to protect.
Thanks for listening to Man in the Middle. If you haven't yet, please consider liking and subscribing to the show. If you can't wait till next episode, follow us on Instagram at MITM Business Consulting and online at MITM.services. There, you can learn more about what we do, how we can help, and the custom services we offer around your personal needs. Until next time, if you'd like to choose the topic we discuss and receive additional services, consider joining our membership program at MITM.services. Disclaimer: Man in the Middle expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. We look forward to you tuning in next time.